Hi all, welcome back to our series of observing the sky. This is Professor Jeff Wilkerson at Luther College. And if you've been watching these videos over the last several weeks, this is for the week of October 5th, 2020. And if you've been watching these, and I don't know how could not have been watching these. I'm assuming you just watch them repeatedly and go back again and again and again. If you've been watching these things, you know that I've said we were going to circle back and talk about the stars of the summer triangle. And last week I suggested that this week we might be going to talk about Mars. And then in the intervening time I decided, nah, I want to talk about the Great Square of Pegasus in the evening sky. But it's going to be none of that. We're going to circle back and talk about Venus in the morning sky. So you can go back several weeks and look at the video that we shot earlier talking about Venus in the morning sky. And I just decided that on the way to work this morning as I was watching. Guess what? Venus in the morning sky. Yeah, you were able to figure that one out. So what I saw there was Venus getting very close to the star Regulus, and by the time you see this video, Venus will be right on top of Regulus, or will have passed. By October 5th, Venus will have passed Regulus toward the sun. Regulus will be the bright star in Leo that is just to the west of Venus in the morning sky. So Venus will be the brightest object in the morning sky, and you'll see the nice bright star Regulus to its west, and this occurs at about 6 o'clock my time. It's a great time to be out there looking at this. So 6 o'clock in the morning, we see this here in northeast Iowa. Probably true for you. The clocks vary a little bit depending on where you are in your time zone, but it's probably pretty close to true for you. Certainly you could see this anytime from 5 o'clock or 5:30 onward in the morning. And so what's happened is this. So Venus is moving closer and closer and closer to the sun because we're orbiting, it's orbiting, everybody's orbiting while Regulus isn't orbiting. It is orbiting. It's orbiting the center of the galaxy. Different stories, different times, different things. So what's happening is Venus is getting closer to the sun, and we see it moving pretty rapidly in the sky every day. So it's a great time to just spend the next few weeks watching Venus relative to Regulus as it slides away from Regulus. As I see it right now, this morning, it was getting closer to Regulus, and now it's going to pass it and slide right on by. Regulus is a marker of spring, actually, if we see it in the evening sky, not here in the morning sky. So Regulus is the bright star at the end of the sickle shape in Leo. And so Regulus is right there, and this is a very nice bright star, and Venus is tracking across this way, and it's now moved over here by the time you see this, presumably. And so Venus is right there, and we will continue to move away from Regulus. The sun is down here. And so the sun's down over here, and you can see Venus tracking that direction. We're going to lose Venus into the sun here in short order, and it will pop out in the evening sky, and we'll note that, I'm sure, when that actually happens. So you see all of this going on, and what's happening here is that, as you know, as we've talked about, there's the sun, here's the Earth, and here's Venus moving around in here. And we know that Venus, as it's getting closer to the sun, we'll just ignore the Earth's motion for the time being, okay? As it's getting closer to the sun from our viewpoint, we see the sun there, we see Venus here, and Venus is moving in this direction, okay? Getting closer and closer to the sun, going to disappear and pop out over here in the evening sky. And so we see it moving across there, and we know it's actually going behind the sun and not in front of the sun. And the way we know that it's going behind the sun is that Venus is getting fuller. We see Venus go through a full set of phases just like the moon does. When Venus is down in here, this is the side of Venus that's illuminated. We can't see the illuminated side. We call that the new phase for Venus. The Venus is getting full as it gets over here. And so it's 75% full right now and growing, 73% full and growing as it gets around here. So somewhere over in here, this is the illuminated side. This is the side that we see. That's actually the side that we see. right this direction, and we see it a little bit more than full, and it gets fuller and fuller and fuller. As it gets around here, we see nearly the entirely illuminated side, and we see a full Venus. Now this is what Galileo saw that led him to be so certain that planets were orbiting the sun. And it's not just that Venus goes through phases, it's the size of Venus as it goes through phases. When Venus is here, it's about 6 times closer to us than it is when it's here. So when we see Venus in a thin crescent like this, it's huge. You can measure the angular size of it, and it looks big, 6 times bigger than it looks when it's over here nearing the full phase. And that works perfectly with this model of the planets in orbit around the sun, and allowed Galileo to be so confident in his conclusion that the planets were orbiting the sun. And that's what we're watching happening right now. Venus is getting smaller. The disk of Venus, apparent disk of Venus, is getting smaller to us as it gets fuller and passes back this direction. What we're watching right now is, if we look further on out into space, out that direction, way out there, there's Regulus. Okay, so we're watching Venus slide past Regulus. If we tracked this through the sun to see what bright star was out there, it's actually Spica in the constellation Virgo. Regulus in Leo, Spica in Virgo. These are real markers of the springtime, nighttime sky. But we see them here in the fall. We see the sun very near these things in the fall because that's where the sun is. By the time we get around here, 6 months from now, we'll be over here. We'll see these in the night sky, and we'll see the stars that are in our night sky right now in the daytime sky. So watch Venus. You'll really get a sense of the motion. If you can watch Venus over the next couple of weeks, you're going to really get the sense of Venus moving from Regulus towards Spica, but you won't see it hit Spica because the sun is so close to Spica. You'd have to be up during the daytime in order to see that. And Venus is getting fuller as it moves this direction, and its apparent size, that angle right there, is getting smaller. When it's close here, that angle, this is certainly not to scale. That angle right there is much larger. So this is a great time to be watching Venus. And I hope you get out and have a chance to enjoy it in the coming few weeks. And maybe, I really shouldn't even predict what we're going to talk about next week when you check into this video series and watch it again and again and again as you do. But maybe next week we do talk about Mars, or we get back and talk about the Great Square of Pegasus, or we talk about the summer triangle again, like we were going to talk about. But sometimes I want to talk about the bright star Fomalhaut this time of year. It's a good thing for us to be thinking about. So anyway, we got a lot of topics. It's always good to have more to think about and talk about than to not have enough to think about and talk about. Our astronomy class starts this week, so we're going to start talking about that a little bit too, and what we're doing in there. I hope everybody has a great week, and thanks for checking in with us again. We'll talk to you later. Keep watching the sky up there.